On today's episode, I want to share with you what I'm finding to be one of the greatest tools when it comes to this life. I know it sounds very dramatic. I don't want to be someone who tells you how great the movie is, and then you get all worked up, and then you watch the movie and you're like, it would have been better if you didn't hype it up so much. So maybe I shouldn't start with that. But in the last 5 years, I've been practicing this thing, which I'm going to talk about, and I feel like it's the key. You know those Indiana Jones movies where he has to find the key to something, and then that key opens up some porthole or whatever. The whole movie is about him finding some kind of key. Wait, is that Indiana Jones? Is that Goonies? There's an '80s movie, I'm sure, that has that premise, and this feels like a key. And I feel like, of course, with life, there isn't one key. I feel like, it's one of those locks with multiple keys that you have to turn simultaneously, and it's like a combination thing. Like it's very extensive to unlock. But I believe this is significant. I believe it's one of those keys. And so here's what it is, and I have to explain the practice. I'm talking about the practice, not an event. And when I say practice, I mean integrated into your daily life, if you can, right? So the practice of being right in front of you. So let me explain. 1 second while I have a sip of coffee, and I promise I will go far back so you can't hear it. I mean, speaking of coffee can be one of the tools. I promised listeners no slurping on my podcast many episodes ago, which is why I take a few steps back when it comes to sipping coffee. I can't stop that routine. It's something I've been. Coffee has been my pacifier since the beginning, so it's really hard to. I feel like I'm better with it in my hand. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not just about me. It's about me setting myself up to give the most. So coffee in one hand. Okay. What do I mean by getting right in front of you? Well, if you know my story, like many, most of my life, horrible ability to be present, usually focusing too much on career success, chasing something, and then getting there, wanting more, that whole thing, right? So, living in my head, simply put, living in my head. And so, practices that force you to get in front of you means things that force you to drop into your body and be present. I just don't like using the word present because it's so overused, and I just feel like it's just become such a bumper sticker. So these practices, they don't have to be expensive. You don't have to get on a plane. For me, and I didn't know I was doing this at the time, and now as I'm connecting dots, I realized the power of these practices. For me, one of the first tools was a motorcycle. If you don't know, I ride motorcycles. I've had 6. And at first, I thought I was just doing something fun. I thought I was giving myself something that my parents always vetoed. And now that I was 35 and could make my own choices, and then also now that I was coming out of divorce and single, I thought, okay, this is the window, right? This is where I'm going to finally get a motorcycle. So I didn't realize this at the time, but I spent a lot of time during my stretch of singlehood riding my motorcycle all over Los Angeles. And that was a machine that forced me to get right in front of me. So I wasn't able to think about the future, taxes, what I was going to do, how I was going to, accomplish something. And I also wasn't able to think about the past, dwell, I was just present, because if I wasn't dropping into my body and being present, there's a chance I could die, right? And so that was one device that forced me into that state. The other thing I found was fitness, community-based fitness, functional fitness, CrossFit. And because it's so competitive, because the workouts are designed that way and everything's timed, it was the first time that I really used movement to not only push myself and also mentally as well as physically, but it was the first time I used movement to be still. So, knowing myself being an Aries and someone who's very high strung, my meditation doesn't come when I'm sitting on the floor. My meditation comes when there's a tornado. Like, I have to go into the hurricane to feel calm, right? So CrossFit set me up perfectly, because it's such a high intensity, active activity that I actually find calm in that. I find calm in chaos. So then I had that, right? So one plate that was spinning was motorcycles. The other plate was fitness. Another plate was coffee and crepes with friends, guy friends, meaningful conversations, taking dudes out of the locker room and getting to know them as people. And this is something that I didn't really do, because when I was married, I thought friends were extra. I thought, who needs friends? Or, once I became successful, then I will travel, then I will make friends, then I will, whatever. So it was the first time in my life at like 35, I started to really invest not only in male friends, but having honest conversations and being vulnerable and, just doing life with men and kind of showing yourself. So that was the third plate. And then the fourth plate, and this was a huge plate, was starting a blog. It was feeding my creative need. It was getting up every morning and expressing myself through words, but just being creative. All right, so we have 4 spinning plates, right? What do they all have in common? Well, all those practices force me to be with me, force me to stand in front of me. It forced me to look at me. It forced me to snap out of what was and what will be and just be in what is. Now, it doesn't lock you there. I wish it did. You're only there for a short a period of time. I mean, even if even when I am riding my motorcycle, it's not the entire time that I'm on my bike. It's a touch and go. It's an ebb and flow. It's hitting moments. Maybe taking a turn when you're on a what is that called? Like a double decker freeway turning where you're really high and you're able to catch the city view. Watching a sunset, right? Just moments, hearing a certain song. And then also when you're writing, a lot of times you're just staring at the screen and until your eyes start bleeding, writing can feel like torture, but you have moments of flow. You hit moments of flow states. You have moments when you feel like there's another energy kind of flowing through you to push out these words. Conversations with friends, they're not always amazing. Sometimes you want to go home, Sometimes you want your time back. But then there are life-changing conversations, and there are moments where, even if it's a laugh, and or it's just to share and you can relate, or if you could help someone, or just listen to someone, But again, it's probably not the entire time you're spending with the person, moments, right? And then what was the other one? Oh, and then fitness. Yeah, it's not constant. It's not from the time you walk into the gym to when you leave. It comes in moments. For me, it comes when it gets really hard, or it comes in kind of like it's like if you imagine your workout as a movie, it would be the climax of the movie. It would be the point where there's no return. You know, that to me, that's interesting. And that's where flow states sometimes happen. So my point is, in this world, we have very few standing in front of us moments. We are, for most of the day, creating anxiety, living in a state of panic, survival mode, even if it's subtle. And listen, there are people rightfully so living in survival mode because they can't pay rent. They have children. They're in marriages that are unsatisfying or toxic. They don't know how to get out of. There's a lot of people suffering, and also that don't have the ability to do some of these practices, right? They are in fight or flight and survival mode, and that is totally fair. But what I've learned is the more you practice these things, I mentioned 4, 2 new ones recently is the ice plunge and the sauna, right? Those are also things where I am finding calm in chaos, whether that's heat or freezing temperature. Playing with my daughter. There are moments when I'm wrestling with not all the time, but there are moments when I'm wrestling with my daughter or engaging with my daughter that are unplanned, that I notice. Maybe it's something she says or something she, just some kind of engagement where it is pure, it is presence, it is me standing in front of me, right? And I feel like the more you're able to, and this is kind of the irony in all this, the more you're able to practice these states, whether they are forced through machines like motorcycles or ice plunges or saunas or whatever, or maybe you're not like me. Maybe you're not about active meditation. Maybe you need to sit still, literally. So maybe for you it comes in the form of a meditation or a sound bath or yoga or I don't know, some breath work or something that's less active. For some people it's surfing. For some people it's climbing rocks, right? But the more you're able to practice these things, and you may nod your head and you may agree with me, but very few actually then execute. And the few that do execute, they don't do it for longer than a week, right? It's like we hear about a great diet and we're excited. We hype ourselves up, we prep, and then the wheels fall off 5 days later, right? It's like that. And I think a lot of people, especially today, because information is free, we're scrolling, we're taking in all this information, we're nodding, we're learning, and then they're just ideas. Like, are you actually implementing them to change your life? A very, very few. So if you can, and it's, everything starts with intention, right? Everything starts with an intention. How do I want to receive this moment, this engagement? And it could be as simple as getting on a rowing machine, making love to your partner, or having a sip of coffee. What's your intention, right? So set the intention. And a lot of my intention is to connect to self. A lot of times you'll see me close my eyes when I'm speaking on video or doing podcasts, and it's just me kind of like recentering and aligning. So the intention to be as present as you can before the activity, and then through the activity, as a practice, integrating that activity as much as you can in your life, knowing that you are reconditioning. Think about it. You know what it takes to change your body, right? You know how many push-ups, sit-ups, what kind of diet that is required to literally change your body. Whether you're burning fat, building muscle, it doesn't matter. It takes a lot of fucking reps. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of sweat, right? It has to be a lifestyle for that to be sustainable, right? We all know this. Well, this is the same. It's that hard. I mean, it requires that much effort. And so if you can practice getting in front of yourself so you're not thinking about the future or dwelling about the past, if you can practice that in any way that works for you as a lifestyle, what happens is your nervous system changes. You are more regulated. There's more distance between you and your distorted thinking that usually hijacks you. You are more grounded. You're a sharper radar. You have more to give. I mean, in a nutshell, you have more to give to others, to the day, to the world. I think over time you sleep better. There's a powerful, I don't know how to describe it, almost like a force field, like from a Star Wars movie. There's almost like this powerful force field that I think happens as you spin these plates, as you pedal this bike of being present completely as much as you can throughout the day. And of course, there are times we can't. We're digging through emails, we're paying bills, and we have to think about the future and, all this stuff. I get it. But if you just turn it into a lifestyle where it is sprinkled throughout your day, every day, this force field starts to take shape, and it starts putting you into more of an attracting state. And I believe firmly, I'm sure you do too, there are things in this world happening that we cannot see. And because we need proof, because we need to see something to know something is happening, we don't believe. And that's sometimes how we fall into quicksand and get discouraged very fast. Yes, it is a choice, but believe there are things that you cannot see, right? Because there are the frequencies. There's I mean, you can only see what's in front of you, right? So there are things happening every day that you can't see. There are stars lining up. There are people talking. There are deals being made, and yes, things are maybe headed your way, or maybe not. But there's just stuff happening, right? And you will, I think, start to attract more of that. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about business, love, whatever you want in your life, you will start to attract more of that because you are reconditioning, rewiring, repositioning your whole self and body. I'm talking about this today because this is what I'm writing in my new book. The book is about love, but it's about more than love. And I think part of repositioning yourself is to do this kind of work, is to be as present as you can. Not just I will, not just an intention, but using active practices. So it forces you to practice this, and you are slowly reconditioning your body for your body to believe the sky is not falling, the world is wide, you are limitless, things are happening you can't see, and you are injecting hope. Hopefully not a false hope. It is a grass-fed hope, a pure hope, an organic hope. Anyway, share if you care, if you think someone needs to hear this today. Thank you for listening. Be well.